Attention's like the first 5 seconds of this call.
Transcription has started. Right.
Oh yeah, I'll get rid of that because it just brings up our chat. It can get a bit confusing. Phil, you still don't have no camera on.
Sorry.
Your camera's still not on, Phil.
It is in the room. I've got it on here.
Yeah.
I'm on, and it's showing that I'm on. Hold on, let me see if I can take it off.
Yeah, give that a go.
No.
No. All right. I'll
No,
leave me.
no,
Get you back.
No, Hannah, you're fine. Sorry, Phil, you're fine. I think it might be Teams playing up. Phil,
There you go, Phil. We can see your lovely face now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you, Hannah.
Okay. So everyone, we'll get started. So we've got an hour for this. I know previous panels that we've run have gone way over time. So we'll try and keep to time as much as we can, but if it's, you know, we're having a great conversation, then obviously we'll lead with that. So thank you everyone for joining us today, day 3 of M Brown Together. So welcome to Wednesday. Today we have a panel talking about our sustainability mission in M Brown, and we've got some great heads joining us today. So we've got Donna, Angela, Martin and Phil. So we've brought together 4 corners of the business, and we're going to interweave how together we're getting ourselves in a position where we're going to smash our sustainability mission if we had a magic wand and unlimited money, but also let's not forget the hard work that's gone on to get us to where we are now, and where we are now, where that's going to take us in the future. I know there's a lot that the guys are incredibly proud of and they've got a lot of passion for, and I know that they'll be talking about today. As I said, the floor is open to questions, so please pop any questions in the chat. We'll do our best to answer all of them. I think I'll hand over to Angela first. I think most people know Angela as being the face of sustainability in M Brown, and let Angela kind of work the table and introduce the other guys as how they all fit into these, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. So I think you're underselling yourself as well, Hannah, because I think we all know how passionate you are about this as well. So I think that's why you're here as well. So I think for those of you that don't know me already, I'm the Group Director of Sourcing, Sustainability, Quality and Fit. So within that, obviously, the sustainability pillar is really, really important across the business, and how we are working there. So for those of you that, just a reminder, so our ESG strategy, so our environmental social governance strategy is over the umbrella of sustain, is broken down into 2 parts. So it's our people and our planet, which is really, really important. So obviously from a people point of view, it is, you know, champion inclusion, all our colleagues, whether that's internally or externally. So, you know, within our supply chains and the community that we operate in is really, really important. So that is, you know, about doing the right thing really across both social pillars and our environmental pillars. And then obviously our planet brings all of that climate and waste and change within our operations together. So for me, it's just bringing that back to life and bringing us back to how do we do the right thing for our business, our colleagues and our communities to make sure that we are making a difference, because as you know, the fashion industry particularly is one of the most polluting industries out there, and it is extremely wasteful. So I know Hannah was just talking about the sample sale, and that's really important about how we reduced our waste and stop things going to landfill. So recycling, reusing, repurposing, all that good stuff. I'm sure you've got lots of questions on that, you know, is something that we are really looking at, and how we manage our stock levels and reduce our overproduction is something that's really, really important. And, you know, just some stats out there, clothing production has doubled since the year 2000. So, you know, according to the McKinsey report, between 2000 and 2014, the production levels doubled on clothing, which is significant. So, you know, if we all that overproduction actually is estimated to be about 158 million tonnes of carbon. So as a business, we're playing our part within that. and the industry generates about 4% of our CO2 emissions. So just to give you some kind of headlines, that is huge. So, you know, we've just had 2 days of really hot weather. This is all impacting that climate change. So as a business, we've committed to the BRC roadmap, which is our climate action commitment, so our net zero commitment by 2040, which is really, really important. And Phil and everybody's played a massive part in that in logistics as well. So I'm sure he's going to talk to you about some of the amazing stuff that we're doing there. And then and that's also linked to our bonus metric around greenhouse gases. And then from a product point of view and from a retail point of view, you know, we've got that product measure around how we're making our products more sustainable. So how do we do our part within the product space, and then how we deliver that to customer and how we actually present that to customer is part of where Donna comes in as well from a creative point of view. And then Martin coming in with how tech has a huge part to play within sustainability as well. So we've committed to the Textile 2030 textile initiative, which is to make sure that all our textiles are sustainable by 2030. And there's a lot happening in this space. So I think from our point of view, just as a collective, you know, everybody in the GLT is really passionate about sustainability and has got something to say. But I think what we wanted to bring to life are some of the things that we're doing and how we move the dial, whether that be through customer or through what you're doing and how you've got a part to play as well. So I think from that point of view, I think I'm going to hand over to Phil to talk about some of the things that he's been doing in logistics.
Thanks, Angela. Afternoon, everyone. I've got a much shorter title than Angela. So for those of you that don't know me or haven't met me yet, then I'm the Director of Supply Chain. So what does that mean in N Brown? So that means myself and the team are responsible for anything that we put into a container anywhere in the world, and when we put that on a truck or we get it to the port, and we then let the little containers go on the ships right through the journey into and up to shore and Hadfield, right through to then when we send the items out. And don't forget, we send out over 31 million items a year, or just over 12 million parcels. And we have back around about 4 million parcels a year as well. So when we talk about some of the things about having a circular economy or making sure from a circularity point of view we're trying to do the right things, then that's really important in terms of the numbers and what we do. So I think we need to also give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back, as Angela said, because from an N Brown point of view, one of the things that, unlike some of even our competitors, we've been able to look at when thinking about where we source from in the world, how we move those products, whether that's by sea or whether that's by air. Ultimately, we're actually in the process of impacting on the amount of CO2 that is being consumed and therefore being emitted into the climate as well. So we need to think very, very carefully about where do we want to source from, how do we want to move those products. And over the last 2 to 3 years, if you look at our sustainability report section within the annual report, we actually as a business are able to give an estimate of the amount of CO2 involved in that whole end-to-end journey. So that's not just thinking about when it comes into the UK. It takes us all the way back to the factories in Bangladesh, to the factories in India, onto the ships, how it's moved by the ships or by the planes, right into the UK. And again, thinking about how do you move it in the UK. We move the majority of our freight by rail, which again, compared to road, is a more sustainable and a less impacting form of transport. And all of our boxes, as we would call them, come all the way to Manchester, and then we move them out to the sites from there as well. But when they're in the sites, we're quite lucky. We have some solar panels at shore, so we're producing our own electricity, which we're feeding back into the grid, and we need to look at how we can increase that. We're also working with Angela and teams on things like the bags that we use, and we'll probably touch on that a little bit about how we can use our packaging to be a major contributor to reducing and improving our sustainable journey. But then all of our parcels find their way out to Every, our major carrier, and we're working with them to think about their ESG journey and how do we work together together to make sure that we're making improvements, whether that's in terms of the types of fuel that every use in their trucks, whether it's how they actually think about how they then distribute those parcels through a more a lower impacting final mile. So all of those things are that. So those are some of the things, and we'll probably come back and talk a little bit more about what we do and how we can help us as a business on that journey, both now and in the future. But probably you've heard a little bit about the product, you've heard a little bit about how we might move the product, but let's talk a little bit about how we create the product. So I'm just going to hand over and introduce you all to Donna. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Donna Jeffs. I'm relatively new to the business, started last November, and my title, again, not as long as Angela's, is Director of Creative Services. So my world covers creative, the true creative, all of the production of the assets that we use in all of our different media. It covers the in-house studio and the photography that we produce to support trading and the website. And it also covers production, so more of the logistics side of how we get things done. And on our journey, we're really a supportive function in many areas around production, about getting all of those items into the studio so that we can get them shot and we can actually show customers what they look like. One of the really important areas that we cover is how we can support the reduction in returns, because the better we represent the product and we show its qualities, its fit, give people more of an understanding of how it might fit their size and look on them, the less likely we are to get people to return products. So we're always striving to make sure that we have photography that really reflects the product, shows the quality, the texture, the fabric. So when people actually get it, they have what they were expecting. A lot of work we're doing at the moment is around improving that journey, showing people in more detail, giving them much more content to go at so they can understand the product. And as part of that, we create all of the econ photography in our in-house studios. And if you've not had an opportunity to go look at the studios, there was an open day, I think yesterday. We might have some more coming up. Do go and have a look because it's really interesting. We're going to be looking at producing video within those studios as well, because if you can actually show a product live on a model and show the movement, you get a much better understanding of how it's going to fit. And all of these things we already know in tests that we've done at the moment that customers really like this, they engage better. There's some small tests that have shown that we've got an uplift in conversion, but also that we have a reduction in returns because people are getting a much better understanding of what their product looks like. So also within the studio, we're always striving from an internal perspective to be as energy conscious as we can. So we're using LED within the studios now, which means that it's a far less impactful energy source for lighting. It's continuous lighting. Halogen lamps that we would normally use much more electricity, and they create a lot more heat, which can disrupt the air conditioning, which again is something that you don't want to do in terms of an environmental impact. So we're already making those small incremental changes that you might not see going on behind the scenes, but they are really, really important. We're also looking at ways that we can support home better, where you might have a lot of transport. So Phil's point around transporting product around. With furniture, it's very big, bulky items that we would need to put on lorries and transport across the country. So in a lot of cases, when we've got supplier imagery, we're using a kind of hybrid CGI, where we'd photograph a room set and then we'd actually create a 3D render of a piece of furniture from an image from the supplier, and then we can drop it into that room set, which means actually we don't need to transport that product around. We also means that we don't end up with product in studio that might get left. And obviously the impact of that from a commercial perspective, but also from a perspective of waste, really, and items ending up in landfill or being just literally discarded. So there's small areas that we're covering that you might not see, but they are going on behind the scenes. We're trying to make sure that product is treated in the best way possible, and that we're really, really efficient in what we do. We obviously cover paper as well, and paper production, and this is a really enormous area where we can have an impact. We're reducing the volume of paper that we're creating, not because we want to remove it, but because we want to be smarter with how we use paper. That's a really good commercial move, but it also means it's a really good environmental move, because the fewer pages we create, the less impact it's got on the environment. And all of the paper that we use, we're striving to be FSC or PEFC accredited, which means that we are using paper from a sustainable source. When a tree is used to create paper, it's replaced, replanted, and it's a very small impact on the whole ecosystem of paper production. We also try and use paper mills and plants where the inks aren't necessarily oil-based, and that there's a really good sort of ethos within those companies that we use around disposable of harmful chemicals, about how they treat paper, how they treat ink, how they put the ink on the paper and transport. So we try and always look for companies that have the same sort of environmental ethos, and we'll support that through the chain. We've already made some small changes, which again are in the background, but they're really good and they kind of born out of COVID. So when we got to a point where we couldn't start creating loads of proofs because people weren't in the office, or we wanted to find methods where people were very much in line with being in an online environment. So we've removed loads and loads of paper proofing, which doesn't sound like a really big thing. It's the point at which before we create a publication, we'll proof something to show what it's going to be, what the end product's going to look like. So we've removed that and we do this digitally now, which means that we've saved, I think, in the region of 500,000 A3 Canon copies in the office. So they're all bits and pieces that are working towards that environmental goal. We've got some big goals in paper, some big goals in trying to leverage all of those lovely areas like CGI and AI, so we don't have to move product around. And then we've got all of those areas within the business where we're looking at how we can reduce our fuel consumption as well.
Donna, you mentioned when you started to introduce what you do regarding how showcasing the product better. Now, Martin, we're rolling out new front end, which is a better shopping experience for our customers. How, when we start to develop the website further across all our brands, how are we able to kind of showcase what Donna does, as in the zoom into the cotton better, product description, things like that? How are we there yet? How far away are we? And then Donna, I know you mentioned about CGI. Where are we with VR? Things like that. You're laughing like it's a pipe dream.
No, so I think just building on what Donna had said there. So around, obviously the photography sits entirely in Donna's area, and the different shots they've improved over the last year, a couple of years. In terms of new web, the new web on SimplyBee, which is launched to 20% today, the new web makes it easier for customers to understand how a product is going to look on them, and also, as Donna said as well, we have been doing tests with the use of video on the BAU sites, which we will introduce onto the new web. Now I think basically the stats are saying that it works. It also links in. We've seen Google research, which also confirms that this helps customers make a decision. So, not quite answering your question, I suppose, Hannah, but new web makes it also easier to add content to the site to be more descriptive around that product. In addition to that, obviously on the BAU sites currently we use a solution called TrueFit. Now, again, the intention of that was to support customers in making that informed decision around a product, whether it will actually fit them or not be the right size, and it does both of those things. So the thing that we can do within technology is try and stop, well, I'll say reduce returns, but with the intention of it making sure that these customers are informed at the point of purchase rather than having to select two. So we're giving them the confidence up front. That's the intention. So again, some of this is it's limited in terms of from a technology point of view, as to how much impact we can have. All we can do is try and provide as much information up front to those customers and enable it from a technology function. So that's the main gist of that. So the other thing is, as we look forwards over this year, within within TrueFit, we're going to be adding in more functionality to the site. So it is better informing our customers as to whether this is the right size for them. So some of you might have seen those indicators on other websites where it fits true to size or big or small. That type of functionality will be coming, I will say soon, certainly in the next few months or so. So that is the intention. So that answers your question, Hannah. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the launch of our incredible Anise range as well, Phil, I'm imagining that the more informed our customers get, as Martin was saying at the first hurdle, and that trickles down. We're already, so we're very proud of our Anise range. So customers are already shopping a very, a sustainable product. As it filters down to our logistics colleagues, for them, knowing we're very proud about the rate of returns slowly going down as well. And do you feel that this is an impact and it's a good starting point for us? Oh no.
Oh, I think we've lost Phil.
I think we might have lost Phil. Angela, I don't know if you can help.
Yeah, so I'll jump in and Phil can jump back in when he's back with us.
Around the screen.
Oh, it must be serious. He's put his glasses on. Look.
I think I'm back. Can you?
Oh, he's back. No. So I think the short answer is yes. I think the more that we can inform the customer and support not only our internal learnings and knowledge, but actually support the customer in not that they don't understand. I think everybody has a very strong opinion about what sustainability means to them, their own personal beliefs and what they believe they need to do for the environment. I think what we can do as a business is talk about what it means to us as a brand. So whether that be simply be JD Williams, Giacomo, or any of the other brands that we've got in our portfolio, and how we are making a difference. So, and just really about being honest and transparent. I mean, one of the big things around ESG is being transparent. So I think in that, guys, using the technology to give them the information up front, then the creative lens to demonstrate the product. If we can make that customer choose the right size or the right style, whatever that, we all may have an occasion or want something new and maybe not quite sure what we want. Hannah, I'm sure you do this all the time. Where we might know we want a dress, but we don't know what shape, what style, what colour, print, fabrication. So actually what happens naturally, particularly in the online world, is we add a lot to the basket. And when we make that accessible for the customer and easy for them to do that, they then may add more than one size or colour and then choose, because their room at home is their changing room.
Yeah.
So all of the things that we can unlock through technology or creative technology, as Donna's already touched on, and then in Phil's world, from a service point of view, how we might be able to do that easier to prevent returns will really help our impact on our sustainability journey. Now, that is part of choice. 50% of returns are through choice. We know that from our history and other businesses that we've all worked in, because actually that is part of selling. If you go into a store environment, you can take them into the changing room and then leave what you don't want. That is part of what we do. But actually, if we can help inform the customer about the journey and about how they can make more informed choices, this is all how we can drive that efficiency throughout the returns.
Somebody's just asked a really good question. Stephen's just asked, do you think we will follow in the footsteps of Boohoo, etc., and start charging for returns in the future?
I think we'd be foolish. Sorry, I hope I'm back, guys. Sorry about that.
Yes,
problem with my muting. Clearly, as we said earlier, Martin, I need a Mac, but I've got my little Surface Pro working again. I think it's an interesting move in the market, isn't it? Not just prompted by Boohoo, but obviously Zara have started to charge for returns unless you take it back to the store. Next traditionally have always charged for returns that aren't made back to the store. Boohoo are the first online retailer of any notable size to charge. But I think in the discussion we were having yesterday, and Paul Halsfield will probably agree, Boohoo also charge significantly for their delivery subscription, more than we do. And charging for returns is probably something that we need to consider, but there are many other ways in which we should be thinking about how we make that easier from some of the things that Angela, Martin and Donna have talked about, really, Hannah.
Yeah.
If you can get and represent the product in the right way so the customer feels confident when they're on looking at it in the creative sense, when they feel they go on to buy it, as Martin says, it looks that it's of a size and they're comfortable that it's going to be right, you're going to reduce down that opportunity for customers to return a significant amount of their basket. We'll have to see where Boohoo go with it, and we'll have to, I'm sure, as a business, come back and revisit that at some point. But I would say for now, I think it's about improving the initial experience for customers, much more than just penalising a customer who wants to return, which clearly is what Boohoo have done to, I suspect, improve the commercial outcome of having not budgeted properly in the first place for their returns.
Yeah.
So I think that would be something on that space. Don't know if anyone else got anything to add, but that would be my view.
Yeah, agree.
Another question that's come in, which kind of covers everybody, are we looking to expand sustainable ranges for our other brands? So somebody said for Simply Be, men's range, for example. I know we were speaking at the beginning of the call. Is there potential for a winter range for Anise? You know, where can this take us? You know, what's the blue sky for us with this?
So the blue sky is that we move all our products to be sustainable, so it becomes organic. So part of the thinking behind Anise was actually that when we did some research, it was the JD Williams customer that struggled the most around sustainability and understanding how, because they're so value driven and they are in a different mindset, it was felt that actually if we created a collection around sustainability to bring it to life, that would then support them in understanding what we're doing. So the intent at the moment isn't to create separate collections for each of the brands that are sustainable. It is actually to make the whole of Simply Be ranges more sustainable and have sustainable properties, and the same for Giacomo. So for example, on Giacomo at the moment, all our cotton is BCI cotton, which is a better way of farming and actually educates farmers right from the start on how to grow cotton sustainably and actually take some of the waste and inefficiency out, and it's traceable as well. So there are other things with cotton around water usage and things like that we need to look at, but it's as a stepping stone, that is where we've gone. So on menswear, as an example, I think probably at least 80% of the range has already got BCI cotton in it. On women's wear, they are using BCI cotton. On dresses for viscose, we're using Ecovero. So we're already transitioning all the ranges across to more sustainable materials. Denim, as an example, across the business is fully sustainable. So there's hydroless jeans in there that use one bottle of water to wash them. It's got BCI cotton in there. We've got recycled polyester in there. So the teams are actively working through, and that's part of the reason why we've got the bonus metric around moving our products to be more sustainable. So that actually means that the business is transitioning towards that 2030 goal of being sustainable across textiles. So the best and the easiest way to do it is to transition what we've got. The bit that we need to do now from a creative and a marketing point of view is then tell the customer what we are doing. So what we wanted to do is start the movement before we started communicating and have something to talk about to our customers that is meaningful, so we can explain that. So we have to work with the industry bodies. So for example, BCI, there are quite strict processes in there before we can start communicating it. So we have to be doing it for a year and then we can start marketing it. So we're at that point now where we've got our credits and we can start talking about it. So that's in the plan with Sam and the marketing team as well.
Fab. So Phil, one of the questions that's come in from somebody called Liam, he said, do we feel confident partners such as Every have a clear roadmap to becoming more green? And I think this is something we can expand on. We do work with a number of suppliers. You know, how can we make sure that they're catching up with us or are on our wavelength of being a sustainable supplier for and brand? You know, we use them across the whole business. For we all touch on them. So
yeah, so I think one of the things that we're very pleased, and Angela may want to come in at some point as well, is that actually from what was Hermes and is now Every, they have come out with a very clear ESG agenda. They've come out with some very ambitious goals around how they are going to reduce the impact that they have. They're also got to remember that I'm thinking under our people, they are the first and only major courier or carrier with a courier business where they have something called, they have a lifestyle choice for couriers where they will give them a pension, where you can have holidays as well. So it's important that when choosing our partners, we're also looking for partners that have the same ambition as we do to either reduce the impact on the planet or to improve the lives for our colleagues, or in their case for the couriers that work for them as well. So they have the largest liquid natural gas fleet in the UK as well, and at some point, hopefully in the next year or so, all of our collections made into the major hub at Warrington will go on LNG vehicles, which would be another step in reducing the impact and the imprint that we have in terms of the journey. And we know that they've started trialling some EV technology in London, so having vans, etc., which are EV based, and they've also looked at doing some cycling couriers as well. Hold on a minute, someone's knocked on my door. I'll have to find out.
How rude.
How rude. Angela, jump in. Hold on, I'll keep going.
It's all happening today, isn't it? Yeah, so I think from an ESG point of view, Every really aligns. So their strategy is around people, product, planet and governance. So they're really, and within that, the people piece, as Phil's mentioned, they have a lot of final mile couriers that are self-employed, and they're the first one to go out and really give them the benefits that they should be entitled to, but also not many other businesses are looking at in that space. So that's really exciting. Their commitment on net zero is actually by 2035. Whereas ours is 2040. So their ambition, particularly in a space where there is not much movement, is really, really high. And that's one of the reasons why we're working really closely with them on what we can do. And they understand the business and the environmental impact of the businesses that they support. And that's one of the really big things that we're working with them on, which is really exciting. So they've got developing their tech in the background as well, and Martin and the team are working with us on how we can use some of their technology to support us in capturing some further data around returns reasons and things like that going forward. So and that's going to give us even more insight. So digitally capturing that information from the customer will really help us try and prevent returns going forward. But also I think in some of their other areas, they are tracking and measuring the kilograms of emissions per parcel, and they are the lowest out there at the moment. So albeit in other areas there may be things that we need to improve, but actually in this space they are really delivering against their targets. So their emissions per parcel are 0.52 kilograms per parcel, which is really small actually. And they want to get that to zero. So that just gives you some context in where they are and what they're thinking and how they're doing that. And they really want to collaborate with us as a business because they can see how we align with them. So I know there's a lot of questions around rental, resale, take back. That is one of the things that we're talking to Every about, how we might be able to unlock that as a business. Simply, we've done some UX testing with them through their customers, but also we've done it with our customers as well on how we might be able to create a take back scheme, which would then filter into resale, repurpose, those kind of things. So actually, how can we do that really easily? Now, we're taking our time with it because at the moment there isn't the infrastructure out there at the moment from a recycling point of view, which makes it really hard. But also, how do we keep it really easy for the customer? Because if you're clearing out your wardrobe and you want to clear out lots of things, we can't ask a customer to just send us back Simply Be as an example. Actually, how do we do it collectively? And this is where the industry and the retail industry particularly has to come together to really collaborate to make a big difference here. So that's something that we're looking at. And then we are also looking, we're in the process of hot off the press. We are also looking at rental for Simply Be. So we're in the processes of going through that. So don't tell anybody, but yes, that's what we're doing. So it's in flight. There's lots of things going on. We know the team at eBay as well, who have done all the pre-love, so we're talking to them. So there's lots and lots of things going on in this space. We just want to take our time and not rush it so we get it right first time, rather than trying to do something and be reactive and get it wrong. So we're just going to take our time and make sure we're all lined up as a collective to really get the best service.
Yeah, that's one of the themes that was coming through the questions. A lot of people were asking about pre-loved or vintage or resell or rental. So that's great to hear that that's definitely something that's being discussed, but not outside these four walls.
No, but I think, Hannah, it's important to show that we're looking at and seeing how we can help our customers in this space. There are clearly others that are doing a lot, but as Angela said, we need to do the right thing for the N Brown brands and for the N Brown customers, and that we do it right. That again builds loyalty, it builds trust, and those are important things in terms of how we want to develop as a business as well in this space, because there will be some people, I'm sure there'll be stories where people do return, but then it just ends up, getting, dumped in a hole in the ground. We don't want to be part of that. We want to actually, as Angela said, be part of a circular economy that ultimately means that the last thing you do is actually get rid of your items. Ultimately, hopefully, once you've loved them and someone else has loved them, they can be recycled and turned into something else, whatever that is. So that's got to be our ambition. And from a returns point of view, that's where we've got to make sure that we can get the best from an initial return it to the best condition as when it went out new, so that any other customer who takes that item feels it's been loved and cared for as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got one thing that it's interesting to know, I know there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that we don't talk about. Is there anyone in your areas out in industry that you think, God, yous are doing it great? Who can we, give credit to, who've kind of maybe a trailblazer, are doing something? And it's not necessarily to say that that's something that we will do in-house, but it's just saying, they're, you can see it's their passion, you can see that it's something that is, underpinning in everything that they do.
I'll give you an answer if you want. So
that'd be good, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I don't know if I've aimed at somebody else. So for me, there's a company called Tropic Feel. Okay, Google them. They effectively, the products they produce are from recycled materials. They fund through effectively a Kickstarter approach, so they create what they sell. They've started off with footwear, expanding it into jackets and bags. So I think if you are happy to wait for a product that is really good quality, if you buy the jungle shoes they've got, they are mega, right? So if you're happy to wait, it fits in with the whole ethos of what we're getting to. So also they've got a really good, from my point of view, a digital proposition as well. So linking that together, so not at all a competitor of ours, but it's good quality products. Everything they're talking about is about the planet, really. So that would be my answer. So.
Yeah, Martin, and this is where tech can really play a part here to enable us to unlock things. Donna touched on it, 3D. So, where we're using 3D to create customer avatars to fit on. The blue sky in my world would be, we would be able to have a customer create their own avatar and try something on the avatar to see whether they like it or not, and then actually order the right thing, and we make it to order. So actually we can then create something that is wanted and reduce waste. I mean, we're quite a way off that. Obviously, metaverse is coming as well, isn't it, at some point, and we're all scared to death of it. But I think, you know, that's another way of using technology. But yeah, definitely, there's loads and loads of different things out there, and there's loads of innovation in this space that is really exciting about how you can try things on in a digital space. And that's stuff that we need to be aware of and need to be constantly looking at. But we have got some of this technology in here already, and we are using some of the 3D kit within my areas particularly. I know Donna's looking at that from a photography point of view, aren't you, Donna?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of work in a previous life as well on AI to see if it was actually at this moment in time a viable proposition, because ultimately what you would end up doing is taking the 3D render that comes from the manufacturing process that we would use to sign off a sample, rather than having a physical sample, and that would be a standard and quality that was so good that we would be able to then actually put it onto avatars instead of shooting it on models. Now, at the moment, our photography for e-com is coming on leaps and bounds. It looks absolutely fantastic. And it does give customer a much clearer image of what our product looks like. Also, inspiration around how to style and wear it and all those things that are really important to her. AI at this moment in time is very limited on how you can actually fix that on an avatar. So you would have an avatar in the shape of a bank of models that you might use that then the 3D render from manufacturing gets laid over the top. But you can't do things like have raised arms or have a lot of movement, because there just isn't the technology yet to support that. But that is coming on leaps and bounds. So I've absolutely no doubt that in the future we will get to a point where that will be so advanced that you won't be able to tell the difference. And that's when we stop producing samples and transporting them. And actually you are in the digital world, and all of those areas become much cleaner in how you're getting something to site. I do think it needs to get to a level where you won't be able to truly tell the difference, because we've still got to be inspirational. We're fashion at the end of the day, so we've got to have that impact. If you look at some companies like Diesel, Diesel use AI at the moment, but the reason they get away with it really well is because they're high fashion, or some, actually I think Gucci does as well, where you can have straight up and down model shots with very little movement, because it is high fashion. With our product, we need to give it much more sort of zhuzh, if you like. So we're not in that place, but it's coming and we will get there. I've absolutely no doubt about that. And that's where Angela's world will really hold hands with ours, where they'll hand over that 3D render and sample for us to use. So it's quite exciting, really. And it's moving very, very quickly. And there was a question in here. I don't want to take over, but there was a question in here I just really quickly want to touch on that was around model imagery and Good American actually showing different size models wearing different products. So on Good American, I don't know if it's Liam who's asked this question, if other people have gone on the site, but denim is really they're sort of famous for. And what you can do on their site is you can go on and you can actually click on the model size that you want to see. I think they give 3. Which means that if I'm a small size, I can click on that. From a larger size, I can click and you can see something that represents your body type much better. Now, we've been doing a lot of work on this in the background for quite a while. We would need support from Martin's World, and I know that we've been talking with them about that. So that's at a development point with new front end that we want to get there, so that it's almost a deselect your model type. But in the interim, what we said we're going to do for denim for Simply Be, and that's coming up now, is that on our content shoot and on our e-com shoots that are coming up for autumn winter, we're going to shoot on 3 different model types so that we can showcase the denim and actually just put that up as part of the PDP so that people can see within the carousel a representation of their body shape and size. And the same thing with the content, which would be used across the board in all sorts of different channels, where we'll be showing those models wearing the same product, but in 3 different body shapes and sizes. So that's the starting point. And then further down the line, absolutely, our ambition would be to be where we are with Good American, where you can actually deselect by that. And that's your sort of your view when you're looking at the PLP. I don't know whether, Martin, whether you want to say anything about that. I know it's not something properly on the roadmap just yet. But
to be fair, we've talked about that for a while. So getting to a default view based on you. I mean, it's just another aspect of personalisation. Obviously, it relates directly to this. So there is a question in again. I'm going to be speaking to Liam about putting all these questions in the chat, but around the amount of work we've got in the portfolio and basically adding to that. So it's a fair question. Now, my view on that is there's a reason why I've got so much work in the portfolio at the moment, and by luck or by judgment, you need to do a lot of this work to enable this sustainability piece. Anyway, our move to microservices gets us there. If we don't move to the new website, then a lot of the functionality we've wanted to do for a long time won't ever happen. So I think maybe by accident on some of this thing, it's some of these things we're going to get there anyway. But everything coming together, and I think one of the broader points is that we haven't got an option. There's no option here with this. All right, so we can't decide not to do it because the customers are already deciding that they won't shop at companies that aren't taking this seriously. I think the other thing that we probably need to take the opportunity for now going forwards is really showcasing what we are doing. So there's a couple of examples in there. So I think Arca and so if you look on Tentree's website as well, they're really clear that they are properly sustainable companies. You know, like this is what we're doing. We've planted 1 million trees and things like that. So, and actually the product that they've got is good quality as well. So it won't wear out as quickly, you know, and if you're clear on the sizing up front, you won't return it either. So there's loads of things we could do, I think. But sadly, I think technology is an enabler for this. We've still got to get some of the basics done so we can do all this, but we just need to accelerate, don't we?
Yeah.
There's another side to it as well. Sort of building on that point about getting it right, as Martin said, is that if you look at someone like ASOS and their returns, they've spent a lot of time looking at how do they improve their recovery rates as well. And they're probably, if you're talking about people in the physical world to admire, they spent a lot of time going back to understanding when a customer returns something, the reasons why they're returning those items, and then looking to make sure that maybe if there's a piece of cotton that's come undone, can they actually have people seamstresses who can repair the items? Can they put some sequins back on a dress that may have cost a lot of money? Maybe someone's just put a pair of shoes on and they've just got a mark on the bottom of the soles. So I think when you're talking about recovery and looking to make sure that you're returning, as Angela was saying earlier, about making sure that you're trying to make the very best of that product before just saying, no, there's nothing more we can do with it, it'll have to be scrapped. ASOS have raised the bar, and something that the team and I have been looking at about how do you put some of those old-fashioned skills back into our returns operation to make sure that you're not just saying there's nothing we can do with an item hammer. So again, just on the other side, not just in terms of creative side, the technical side, there are others out there we can learn from in terms of how we improve that returns.
I also have seen, I mean, at the end of the day, we need to sell product to make money, to pay all our wages. I was shopping on a retailer the other day and I was putting in my reason for why I was returning the item, and it was wrong size, and then it come up with alternative sizing. And I think just that intelligence of that option, that return, when I'm returning it, you know, it picked up on the fact of my reasoning. I mean, I don't know what it would have said if I said it, you know, looked different than it did on site. I then went and purchased it in the right size. So they still, you know, whilst the return process still happened, they still got another sale out. And, you know, are we looking to do things like that? Because again, we've got a great product and we need to sell it.
Yes, we will do that, definitely. Absolutely, we'll be doing that. Again, I think Heather's posted some of the UX research on sustainability. That type of thing will come out of the research, and the UXers will design that process in conjunction across the business. So we are obviously continue to make money while it's being sustainable. So, so that's absolutely.
This is a sustainability mission right there.
Yeah.
I'm just conscious we've got 9 minutes left, and I know you guys have had vision of the questions, so I didn't know if there was anything that it popped up that you just wanted to draw attention to. we've had an amazing amount of questions, and thanks so much for people who've contributed to supporting, like Heather dropping information like that in for us. That's been really helpful, and it's great for colleagues to be able to click through. But has there been any final points that you want to raise or share, or any breaking news, anything like that?
Well, my chat has been working very well, Hannah, so I apologise if anyone posted anything there, but I did notice someone was asking the question about charging points and cycling. So just to say yes, from across all of the sites now, both recently at Sheerin and Hadfield, we've increased the amount of charging points. There are charging points at Griffin House. Clearly, we need to look as the number of people who switch from petrol or diesel cars into more electric cars. We'll need to look at the number of charging points that we provide. So that'll definitely be something we'll be doing. And I can say, hot off the press, we are looking to replace our current little fleet of Renault Clios with some EV vehicles. Hopefully that will be, depending on now as everyone knows, the supply chain challenges of actually getting chips and now wiring looms because of some things that are happening out in Ukraine. That may be a little bit later in the year than we would like, but we're definitely going to switch all of our own vehicles over to EV as well. So if you do need to take one, where you're going out to visit suppliers, or you need one as part of your role, then we'll be going over to an EV fleet very shortly as well.
That's great to hear. Any last points from you guys?
Yeah, I think there was one that Donna and I had touched on as well, and I think it's important as part of the launch of Embrace around DE&I, Hannah, from a people space. I know we've touched on social and community, but this is a really important pillar. And I think just to call that out, so, you know, Camilla and yourselves and the team launched the Embrace strategy, but I think that's something that's really important, and particularly when we're all about inclusion. And I think, you know, that model diversity right through to all our cultures across the world. We are a global business, so, you know, we've got lots of people from lots of different areas, is really important to embrace. And I just wanted to call that out as a point that, you know, it isn't something that we don't consider as part of everything that we do. You know, we publish our supply chain lists with the gender mix on it, you know, and all those. We're part of the living wage. We're part of lots of organisations as a business to come back to doing the right thing. So I just thought that was really important just to call that out, because we haven't really touched on it today, but I think it is important, and I know a lot of people have got a big interest in that as well.
Yeah. And just to support that really quickly, Angela, obviously in everything that we do in terms of creating content with models in, we are absolutely constantly striving to make sure that we are representative of not just our internal community, but the external community. So we are diverse, we embrace all gender types, all sort of ethnic minorities, every background you can think of. I think we've got to always be really, really on that, and understanding that our customer needs to see his or herself reflected. So in all of our ecom and content, creative content shoots that we do, you'll see that we have a really broad and diverse range of models.
Sorry, Hannah, there is a question from Danielle about, are we looking at a returns portal? The short answer to that is yes, we are. Hopefully launching to colleagues. I better be careful because I made 2 promises on this, but hopefully we'll be launching that to colleagues in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And that will be the start of our journey, improving the visibility of why customers are returning, and also after that, hopefully be launching that to our customers in the latter half of this year as well. So, and also to Stephen's question as well, similar sort of questions. So definitely.
Any last breaking news from you, Martin?
No, I wondered what Phil was going to commit to now.
No, I'm being very careful, Martin.
No. I think, I know you probably close this down though, but it's been really interesting that how many people have actually come on the car with loads of great questions. So
yeah, brilliant questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put them into a deck and I'll share them with you, with the panel, and then if the panel can populate answers, and then we can reshare. This is going to be shared on Fabric, so we'll make sure that colleagues can see afterwards. Well, I think we've managed to stick to time. Thank you so much. It's been incredibly insightful. you know I'm mega passionate about this, so it's been an honour to be able to host something like this. I hope we see everybody tomorrow for day 4 of Together for M Brown Drinks and Nibbles after a really informative day. So I'm sure you're going to want a beer or a glass of wine after that. Any other questions, drop it in the chat. But thanks so much and have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, everyone, for coming on. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.